I'd like to call to order the October 22nd meeting of the Shelby Township Planning Commission. If I could ask the guys in the glass booth to maybe cut the music. Want to cut the music? I mean, it kind of works for me a little bit. But I may start dozing off, and that may not be the most effective way to run the meeting.
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you. I will ask now as the secretary to call the roll.
Mr. Dallo?
Here.
Ms. DeSico?
Here.
Ms. Casali?
Here.
Ms. Boutros?
Here.
Mr. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Apone?
Here.
Mr. Wozniak, absent. Chairman Moffett, we have a quorum.
Wonderful. Next is approval of the agenda, if there are no
So
corrections.
moved.
Moved by
Support.
Turner, support by DeSico. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next item is approval of the minutes from the October 8th meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Dallo, support by DeSico. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next item, we received correspondence regarding Rowe Professional Service Company proposal, and I will ask the planner to present this.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. We had a meeting with Rowe Engineering and Consumers Energy. They have a parcel in Section 2 that they want to develop for a service yard for piping and some equipment. And there are two options we have for approval. One is special land use, or if we consider it essential service, then they're exempt from going through the normal site plan process. We had a similar proposal from DTE in that area, and at that time, we defaulted to using the special land use process, which requires a public hearing and a submission of a site plan. Unless there's some other interpretation by our attorneys, my suggestion is to comply with the special land use process. I think it's a better option.
Okay, Ms. Denowith, do you concur with the planner's thoughts?
At this point, yes, Mr. Chair, we do, but if the Planning Commission would like us to look into it further and draft a memo, we would be more than happy to do that also.
I don't know that that's necessary, but I'll ask the board members. Does anyone object to the planner's recommendation?
No, sir.
Seeing none, you have your answer.
Thank you.
Next item, site plan number 14-01, Tamir Kata, the Babylonia Banquet Hall. Hopefully, what, fifth time a charm, something like that? Oh, it's been a couple.
Good evening. Pete Snyder, Urban Land Consultants, 8800 23 Mile Road, Shelby Township, Michigan, representing the
Can you all
applicant.
hear him back there?
I can. Are we on? Do you want me to try?
It's on, I just don't know that the volume's up. All right, they're on it. All right.
Okay. I'm having trouble with the handheld too.
It's on.
All right.
There you go.
How's this? All right, if you'll, most of you, I'm sure, will remember this project was in front of you about 2 months ago. One of the major stumbling blocks, of course, was parking and the seating inside the building with respect to parking. There were some other site plan issues as well, some cleanups that we needed to do as well. So I'm going to run through just a quick note about the site plan cleanups. The one of the commissioners raised, I think it was Mr. Wozniak, Commissioner Wozniak raised the issue of where the dumpster was located, which was formerly located down here. We relocated it out of up to the main level parking area over to here. Now, subsequently, your planner has indicated that needs to be 20 feet from the residential property line. That'll end up getting scooted just 90 degrees to where it is on the other wall, so they'd pick it up this way and leave. So the dumpster's been moved. One of the other discussion items with regard to the site plan was how far this parking sort of came behind the terrace, and they've elected to move that back so that it clears out more of the view towards the lake from the back of the site plan. There's a couple other real minor site plan cleanups that we did as well. But basically, you're ending up with a site, the main site there, the 5 acres south of Auburn Road, that used to be the Four Bears building. Nice addition in the front, 2-story additions in the back, and 350 parking spaces on the site. Okay. Along with that, however, property that the applicant also owns adjacent to it. I'm going to turn this So north is up. I hope, see if they can get that with the camera. There we go. So here in pink is the former Forebear site, the submission, this site plan. The applicant also owns we call this Stone Ridge South. It's a condominium. He owns the condominium complete. He also owns this property over here, which is fully developed in terms of infrastructure, meaning the roads are in, the underground's in, the storm, sanitary, water main were all in to support a multifamily condominium here. He owns that property, but what he's done is he's taken out inside this blue area and he's providing overflow and valet parking. Some of it completely paved, some of it gravel overflow parking. So with that, I think there's another 430 spaces over here. So what that did is that more than doubled the available parking to the site, albeit, you know, significant portions of it are off-site, would be valet or overflow parking. But it gets you to the situation where even, you know, the building completely full with row seating, but no restaurant use at all down below, will fit in, you know, comfortably, has enough parking spaces for that. For normal day-to-day use, again, the applicant has no expectations that this parking is going to get used for normal day-to-day use. It would be the larger banquets above 350, you know, cars arriving that now have overflow area. So we understand that putting overflow parking on what was already an approved site plan for Stone Ridge South is going to require a site plan revision for that. Obviously, we wanted, that is the copy of the site plan for Stone Ridge South with the revisions made to it. So what you're looking at, the revised site plan for Stone Ridge South without the application, of course.
What had been there? Was that an open space?
No, it wasn't open space. There was a collection of buildings. I can't remember how many buildings. There's 2 buildings here, there's a building here, and I think there was 2 buildings there. So we removed residential buildings and put the overflow parking there. So I guess with that, I don't have a lot more to say. Again, last time I was here, it was pretty evident that we needed to address the parking to the fire department's satisfaction and your satisfaction, and the applicant has, we have. So if you have any questions for me, I am certainly available.
Mr. Nguyen, maybe to you. Well, I actually want you to offer your comments, and then.
Well, I think we were pretty satisfied that Mr. Snyder's met all the concerns. We had the meeting with the fire department, went over different seating options, and that was the biggest hang-up. There are some details we still have to work out, but we think that's a reasonable compromise.
Okay. And you're comfortable with that revised site plan from having
Absolutely.
like a third of it now parking?
Yeah, and because, you know, if he wants to do something else, he's going to have to come back with another plan. And maybe over time, they will move things around a little bit, but they needed more parking.
Okay.
That's the only logical place for it.
Okay.
Yeah, and in terms of revising that site plan, I think it's pretty clear to see that we cherry-picked the interior areas, the interiors of the the interior of the site away from the lake, and eliminated those buildings that really made sense. Maybe the less desirable of those buildings rather than the ones on the lake.
Mr. Chairman, one other factor, you know, it may be that we can revise that parking over time when we see what the demand actually is. This is kind of a worst-case scenario that anticipates a really significant seating. I doubt that they'll ever get to that. If you just do it based on the tables, you don't need all that extra parking.
Okay.
This might be an interim sort of step until we find out what the ultimate solution is there.
Does it make sense to maybe bank some of that property to just see if we need it?
It might be.
Right.
That might be a worthwhile thing to do. As long as it's on the site plan, we know it's available.
Got it. Okay.
Phase it in as necessary. I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, and certainly we'll have, of the 430 overflow, a bunch of them are gravel, exactly that. The infrastructure's there, the roads are there. You put down a gravel surface and you're done. It's not like you've changed it in a way that's hard to undo.
Because we certainly don't want to disrupt the owner's ability to maximize that site more appropriately. We'd rather see residential there than parking.
Right. To the board, any questions?
I do. I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Boutros.
So to the south, we have R1C zoning. Are you providing screening between your site and the condo?
To the south. This,
To the south of the parking lot, to the west of your
Okay.
building,
back up here.
yeah.
All
Where
right.
the trash enclosure is.
Yes, so the applicant owns these completely, this condominium. So yes, the landscape plan is showing some beefed up landscaping in that area. I think that was one of the comments from when I was here a couple months ago. So it's showing beefed up landscaping in between this property line and those buildings, yes.
Can we add more trees between, like, further away from the building, like where you have the existing drive for the condo and then the parking lot? Yeah, right in this area.
in this area?
Yeah,
Understanding that there's a water main easement running through there and we'd need to stay out of that, yes.
I drove the site yesterday. There are existing trees, but
Mm-hmm.
I think they're on your parcel. So if you're gonna take them out, then you're gonna have, the screening will be gone.
Meaning the existing trees
Right, in
that
this
are up
area.
here in the
right.
parking lot?
right.
Yes.
So if you're gonna remove them, then you won't have screening between the parking lot and the condo.
You're talking about adding some trees
This
in this
area,
area?
yeah.
Sure. I don't think that's a problem.
And then the trash enclosure, you said you're going to flip it, because right now it's inside the sanitary sewer easement.
No, it's not inside the sanitary easement. It's within 20 feet. Your planner actually caught that. It's within 20 feet of the residential property. Apparently,
For the plan I have, it is inside, because you're
Yeah.
calling that line a sanitary sewer easement. But if you're going to move it out, then that's good.
Yeah.
That's the other option that you have. And the handicap parking spaces that you have at the southern parking lot.
yes, these.
Have the sign, I think it's 16 foot, the depth of that parking space. The sign is basically right at the curb, so it's not gonna allow for overhang.
The
Can you-
signs will actually be mounted on the retaining wall there.
Yep. But that's
Yeah.
not what the plan shows, so can you
Yeah.
just make sure?
They've got the
Okay.
little sign symbol there, but
Yep.
they're actually mounted on the retaining wall.
Very good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the modified extension for site plan application 14-01 for Darren Zebri Babylonia Banquet Hall located at 3000 Auburn Road, subject to the submission of a revised plan addressing all department comments, and that occupancy of the building may not exceed the requirements established by the fire marshal based on the number of parking spaces available.
Support.
Okay, moved by DeSico, supported by Dallo. Any questions on the motion?
Mr. Chair, should we amend that
Subject
motion?
to add screening between
additional
R1C and the site.
Yes. Sure.
Mr. Dallo, you agree?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing none. Commissioner DeSico?
Yes.
Commissioner Dallo?
Yes.
Commissioner Casali?
Yes.
Commissioner Boutros?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Pone?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next item, site plan number 18-43, Jason Potter, for the McDonald's on Van Dyke and north of 21. Name, address, what are you here for?
Okay. My name is Jason Potter. I'm here for the McDonald's remodel renovation at 47475 Van Dyke. I'm here representing McDonald's. The McDonald's across the country has a remodel incentive program going on where they're doing all the 1980s and early 90s, where you've seen the mansard roof that overhangs typical McDonald's when you close your eyes. They are trying to get away from that and make it more modern to meet the current industry standards in design and architecture. The rendering that you guys all have in front of you, there's two different kinds of styles. There's a modern scheme and a craftsman scheme. The craftsman is what this McDonald's owner and operator who does the day in, day out information of the basically the manager of this location. That's what they picked. It's more earth tones and tan colors. How they go about doing this is they take off the shingles and the roof structure, but they keep the trusses and then they just build up. And originally this building is at 16'6", and we are planning on going to around the whole building to 18 foot, and then to bring hierarchy to their building, they have two things called a brand wall. On the rendering, that's where the M logo is. That typically faces the main pedestrian circulation path, what would be Van Dyke, and then where the accessibility parking and main entrance would be from accessibility. Their scope of work on these are typically, their site work is to have
Cell phone close to a microphone there.
we typically adjust accessibility issues. We normally never touch anything, change the parking layout, just the accessibility, handicap parking. And then if a sidewalk is not going to the public sidewalk, we add a sidewalk on the site connecting it, so we meet all accessibility requirements to ANSI 117A.
Okay. Mr. Nguyen?
We have no objections, Mr. Chairman, as submitted.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Just one question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Turner?
Mr. Potter, what will that accessory building that you're going to be putting on there be used for?
That would be used for site maintenance stuff, like shovels, salt, whatever things they might use in the summer, like extra mulch.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do have one. So the shaded area, is it the added handicap parking spaces?
The handicap parking spaces currently don't meet accessibility code, so what they do is they rip up the asphalt, then they put down cement and concrete so then it doesn't buckle in the weather, and that's just the outline of the area where they will make sure that it's the correct slope of 2%, 5%.
So the drive-through location, was it modified or is it per existing condition?
It's per existing condition.
Because I just wanted to know the distance for the drive lane next to it. What would that be?
According to the existing plans that we have, it's 10 feet.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Pone.
move to approve site plan number 18-43 for Jason Potter for McDonald's Restaurant based on the submission of the revised site plan addressing all department comments.
Support.
Moved by Pone, support by Moore. Any question on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Pone?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Boutros?
Yes.
Commissioner Casali?
Yes.
Commissioner DeSico?
Yes.
Commissioner Dalu?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Good luck. Next item is a public hearing on a rezoning petition, number 08-18, Jeffrey Miller. I'll ask the secretary to read the notices published.
Charter Township of Shelby, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission for the Charter Township of Shelby, Macomb County, Michigan, has received a request for approval of the following amendment to the zoning map and approval of the following special land use. Applicant Jeffrey S. Miller, RCG Ventures Holdings, LLC, 3060 Peachtree Road, Northwest, Suite 400, Atlanta, Georgia, 30305. Rezoning request from from C3 Shopping Center Business to C4 General Business. Proposed special land use. Self-service storage facility. Location 7601 23 Mile Road, the intersection of 23 Mile Road and Van Dyke. Sidwell number 23-07-16-476-021. Legal description is as follows. The Planning Commission will meet on Monday, October 22nd, 2018, at 7 p.m. in the Shelby Municipal Building, 52700 Van Dyke, Shelby Township, Michigan, 586-726-7243, for the purpose of holding a a public hearing on the rezoning and special land use applications. The application for rezoning, special land use, site plan, zoning ordinance text, and zoning map may be examined at the Planning and Zoning Department in the municipal building Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Written comments may be submitted to the Planning Commission at the above address prior to the hearing. Oral comments will be heard during the public hearing. This notice is provided pursuant to the requirements of Michigan Public Act 110 of 2006 as amended. Shelby Township Planning Commission, Jerome Moffett, Chair, Raquel Moore, Secretary. This was published in the Shelby Utica News on October 3rd, 2018. There were 48 property owners, 3 applicants, and 9 utilities were notified by first-class mail on September 28th, 2018.
Great, thank you. Ms. Denowith, did the publication meet all legal requirements?
Yes, it does.
Great, thank you. So this is sort of a two-part submission. The first being a request to rezone the property, and then the second, a site plan on what they propose. I'm going to break this up sort of into 2 pieces because it really doesn't make sense to dig too deep into the site plan if we don't know if the zoning is going to be approved. So I guess we'll limit most of the conversation initially to the rezoning and whether this body thinks it appropriate for the district. And with that, did we receive correspondence?
Yes, we did, Mr. Chair. We received a letter, an email just recently from Marcia Perzanowski, and she is against the rezoning.
Great, thank you. This evening, this process will be conducted as follows. First, the petitioner or representative will be allowed to come up and state what they're requesting and their reasons for it. I'll then turn it back to the board to ask any questions of the petitioner. I will then open it up to the public to make their opinion known, ask any questions to the board. Then we'll bring finally the petitioner back up to answer those questions. It's not really a debate, it's about we'll air as many questions as folks want or to offer their comments. Everyone gets a fair shot at it. And with that, I'll ask the petitioner to come up. If you speak, I'll just need you to state your name and address and then sign in when you're finished.
Slideshow, if I could ask that the first slide be placed on the screen. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Ben Aloya. I'm the representative of RCG Ventures, who is the applicant today. Mr. Jeff Miller, who's here. Mr. Miller, if you could stand, please, and come forward. Mr. Paget. These are the representatives of RCG Ventures. They've come here from Georgia today to present to the Planning Commission their request for rezoning from C3 Shopping Center to C4 General Business with a special land use.
Can I get your address, Mr.
Oh,
Miller?
sure. My address is 48 South Main, Mount Clemens, Michigan, 48043. That's my business address. I'm also a Shelby Township resident. So we come here today. This is the former Kmart parcel. I think everyone understands what the Kmart parcel is in this community. As a resident, I certainly understand it. The Kmart parcel is a vacant building, and it's a large building. Kmart was here for many, many years. But obviously, with the change in the retail economy, Kmart has gone out of business. Walmart is now here. Amazon is now here. As we've seen up and down Van Dyke, some of the smaller big box retailers are going out of business. We've seen that down Old Van Dyke, where now they're filled with things like Purple Hearts and Salvation Armies and dollar stores. It's an interesting change. And as we know, as Macomb County residents, a lot of our big box retail is really focused on 26 Mile, where there's a new shopping center. There's the new Mega Kroger that's there, and we have Meijer, and we have Home Depot, and of course the M59 corridor. So it's a really unique parcel now that Kmart has gone out of business, with Walmart down the street, which pulls a lot of the same business away from them, and they're a huge competitor. Of course, there's the online business, which has really changed the retail industry tremendously. So RCG Ventures, they're a national company. They have retail outlets in 28 different states, and so they're one of the top companies, retail investment companies in the country. And they looked at this property and they evaluated it. And they took a serious look at what kind of retail could they bring to this location. And unfortunately, after surveying all their contacts, it was none. And it's because of the issues that I've really addressed here. And so one of the areas of their business is climate-controlled storage. And I know that some people may look at that and say, wow, you know, a storage facility, it's a change. It's really not something that I envision there. Well, here's the reason why we bring this idea to this community. First of all, there's a tremendous need. We brought a market study which shows that even if we build this facility, there will be more need in the market. I know that there's been some other outdoor storage facilities or non-climate controlled that have been built in locations. There's 10 competitors in Shelby Township. But even with those competitors, even if we build this facility, it will not meet the demand. And what's going on in the community, as you know, as a planning commission, what are we getting more of? Apartments, condos, things of that nature. The millennials are really driving some of that and the economy. So with that type of housing and people buying more and more things on Amazon, we need storage. And people are moving, they're transient, things of that nature. So we think there's a market demand. We also believe that, so we have to, in looking at this, we of course have to rezone it because in the C3 shopping center, it does not allow for this type of use. There is a special land use within C4 that permits it. And we believe that this is a logical transition. As we look at the site, and we provide, can you move, I think it's 2 more slides down, please? Yes. So if we look at the site, let's look at the surrounding area. Okay, so what do we have? This address is actually 23 Mile, if you can believe it or not. I didn't know that. I thought it would be Van Dyke living here all these years. It's actually 23 Mile Road. And so what do we have in front of it? We have a Big B Coffee. We have Tim Hortons. We have a Rite Aid, a gas station. Sunoco has been there for many, many years. We have a Huntington Bank. And as our part of the proposal, we have another outlet that will be placed there for a future commercial use. And directly across 23 Mile, what do we have? And these are uses that have been here for a very, very long time. We have a concrete cement batch plant. We have a wholesale supply company that wholesales convenience stores and gas stations and things of that nature. And we have a gas station that has a very large car storage yard that has been there for many, many, many years in a church. So we believe, and behind this site we have a McDonald's. We believe that this use makes sense. It's logical with the surrounding uses. It absolutely makes sense. It provides complementary use. It provides a transitional use. Again, people say, why storage? If you really look around the areas, a perfect example is 27 in Van Dyke, where there was a wing of that shopping center that had been vacant for a very long time. And the landlord couldn't figure out a way to really revitalize that shopping area. And Tony Gallo, who's a developer there, provided air-controlled storage. And he really revitalized that shopping center, and he now has a full shopping center because it doesn't look dark, it doesn't look empty, it's been rehabilitated. As a resident, what I'd hate to see is what we have at the Farmer Jack at 25 in Shelby. You know, that's been vacant for many years. It's a dark corner, and we really need to stabilize this area for the benefit of the surrounding community, because even though when buildings are this building needs renovation, it needs updating, it needs to be refaced, and when it does that, it revitalizes the surrounding area. So it may not be what you believe to be the most attractive use, but it is a logical use. It is a use which will be stable. It will provide, we are renovating this building, we'll be improving the SEV, we'll be improving the building, and it will be, if made, it will be a wise decision for the township. I'm going to introduce Pete Snyder, who is the engineer for our applicant, with some more information.
Sure, I just want to run through, in an abbreviated fashion supposedly, basically the submission documents that are in front of you. We've got slides of each one, so if they could go to the next slide. And again, I won't take a ton of time on this. That's the existing conditions plan. It's in your packet. It shows the 10, basically a little bit over 10 acres, 608 parking spaces, vacant building, bordered on the north by Big Lots. That's actually, Big Lots just signed a 10-year lease to reoccupy that. That's actually a good store for them, and that's going to remain. That is fairly relevant to the rezoning itself. That can't just go away, and we can't just redevelop up there. So it's Zone C3. I think Mr. Aloy already ran through the surrounding areas. This parcel is Zone C3. The Big Lots is Zone C3. To the west is LM, including the McDonald's. That's also an LM parcel. To the south, of course, he ran through the uses there. And then it's Zone C3 along the hard corner and across the street. So there's sort of a mixture of zonings around it. No residential touching it at all or even nearby. Next slide, please. The proposed site plan, I think, is, again, fairly self-evident. Proposing almost a 1 acre outlot fronting on 23 Mile Road for some future use. That's a fairly decent pad size for a lot of different users. The approximately 2 acres right there in the middle is parking lot that they would like to convert to green space. I could talk just a little bit about that. That green space isn't necessarily permanent. They don't have a better use to bring forward for it right now. And of course, everything that's done on this parcel has to be sort of worked out with the Big Lots as well. They have sort of mutual exclusion sort of language back and forth. So they don't have total freedom to develop whatever they would like in that 2 acres. The remaining 7 acres, it's a little bit over, I don't know what we have, 218 parking spaces plus the 103,000 square foot former Kmart store remain. We're changing some of the parking with that, adding some landscaping to that. If you could go to the next slide, please. This is just a colored rendering of, a simplified colored rendering of the same thing. You can see the green space. It's, you know, at 2 acres, it's approaching the same size as the former Kroger, or excuse me, Kmart as well. So shows the outlot, shows some of the landscaping that will be installed right in front of the building facade. And that's probably enough on that slide. Next slide, please. This is a colored rendering of the improvements, the architectural improvements to, you know, mostly the front. You can see the rear at the bottom rendering is of the rear. The one up from the bottom, that's the south end or the 23 Mile Road end. But the strip in the 3 up and then the top is a blow up of what they want to do to the front. They're adding a lot of architectural features, dressing that building up. It, quite frankly, it sort of needs it. Trying to, again, it's a very long frontage there, and it's fairly plain right now and fairly straight. So I like the architecture. I do. I think it's fairly classy, and they're going to have clientele that expect to come into a fairly classy looking place. So next slide, please. This is sort of a floor plan of what they're planning to do on the interior. I think it's pretty evident. They've got some hallways and a lot of units and a nice sort of gathering area, sort of a small retail in the front, and a lot of access for users to get in and out. Next slide. Photographs of similar facilities in other places of the retail sales area and the leasing area. Again, this is a classy kind of a place. This isn't the old, this isn't the old razor wire and store your beat up whatever out in the back. This is a classy place that you could really be proud of. Next slide. I think this is just, we're gonna leave this one up. I'm gonna have representatives from RCG are coming up. Is it Wesley, are you coming up? Just Jeff? Okay. So I want them to talk just a little bit about RCG. Again, they're, you've seen Mr. Aloya before, you've certainly seen me here before, but you don't know much about this company, so I wanted to have them speak just a bit.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Miller, RCG Ventures. I'm the Vice President of Acquisitions and Development. We're based in Atlanta, Georgia, and we were founded in 2003. We're privately funded, Over the last 14 years, we've acquired about 160 properties in 28 states and have invested about $1.25 billion in capital. Currently, we own about 90 shopping centers in 22 states, and we have 6 assets currently in the state of Michigan that are valued somewhere around $50 million. In 2017, we had a couple of big box tenants very similar to this situation in some assets that we owned, and we really struggled to re-tenant those buildings, and so with retail uses. So we had to start evaluating different options to try and bring some life back to these assets. And so we looked at a lot of different options, and one that we came across that seemed to make sense for a variety of reasons was re-tenanting and repositioning the center with climate-controlled storage. And so there's quite a few things that we found that are led to the reasons to go that direction than some of the other options that were out there, is that these facilities need high traffic locations, they need good visibility, just like a shopping center does. The shopping center or the storage facilities coexist well with retail tenants and restaurants because the buildings typically are very similar in their aesthetics. And as you can see by the way that we've looking to create some green space here, they're not heavy on parking requirements. And they're also very quiet, clean, secure uses. All of the facility or all the storage units are within the building. It's a heavily secured facility for access for all the clients that have to have key cards or PIN codes to get in and out, and there's cameras on all sides of the building, inside and out. You know, we had, like we always do, really approach things from a retail standpoint, and I'm not going to really rehash what's already been stated. Everybody lives around here. They know where they're doing most of their shopping, but we just didn't have any real success in attracting any big box retailers that could re-tenant this space. And I'll talk a little bit more about the feasibility. You know, we engaged a third-party consultant that, like we would always do, to help us get comfortable with the market and verify that there's enough demand to build a facility like this. This is a significant investment for us. This is a multi-million-dollar investment on acquisition and the redevelopment of the building itself. And so obviously we're very thorough and conscious about the success because we've got a lot in the deal. So in addition to being validated by the third-party consultant, we also went to 2 national real estate investment trusts to get their underwriting on the project to, again, validate the viability. And they also confirmed that the site does have the demand, the rental rates are warranted for this kind of investment. Ultimately, we'll engage one of the national companies to manage and lease the property. We'll own it, and then they'll handle all of the leasing and operations, and it'll be branded with one of these national groups. And then additionally, as I touched a little bit on the big lots, because of the way that this property is structured, there's easement agreements and other things that currently exist, and we had to go to Big Lots to get their consent to allow for the storage use. And the reason I think that is important is because we were able to secure a long-term commitment to them on the site, which was important to us. And also I think it demonstrates that some of these national retailers do find that this is a compatible use along with retail. The last thing Big Lots wants to see is a vacant neighbor. That's not good for their business, and clearly not good for the site itself. So we were able to get them committed for long term, and then again, like I said, get their consent for the storage and the proposed green space area. We're, RCG is obviously very committed to the deal. As I mentioned, we've got a significant investment. We've been working on this deal for probably a year now, in a variety of capacities. So, we've been committed to the state of Michigan for a long time, and we continue to be a pretty, I think, well-respected owner in the state, and we would expect no different here in Shelby. And that's all I have.
Okay. So I got?
Only if there's any questions.
Okay. What percentage of your business is in self-storage?
It's growing, but as I said, just in
Why don't you come up to the microphone?
It's as I mentioned, we just started to work into the self-storage space, so I don't know how you can quantify it with the amount of square feet we have or the dollars invested, but between us and some of our partners, we've RCG alone, it's a small portion, but it's a growing portion. We've got 4 sites in pre-development currently, but frankly, if you want to compare square footage to the 11 million square feet we own, it's a very small portion.
Okay. All right, thank you. There was a comment made that, and again, let me bring Pete back up. You indicated that there was no residential anywhere close to it. There is a development, I don't know if you're aware, to the west, a multifamily development that's been approved. We have approved site plan on.
It's been approved. I thought that's still zoned LM.
No. Mr. Wynn, am I wrong?
They submitted, but they never followed through with the rest of the
so
process.
it's-
So it's been in a holding pattern for years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is, can someone I think Mr. Aloya mentioned that there were a number of competitors, and I think that's kind of largely, I mean, within a mile, less than a mile, there are multiple facilities, and one of them is an enclosed, has a temperature-controlled space, so that comment wasn't, I think, entirely accurate, unless the one on 23 Mile has an indoor
They do
facility.
have some material.
Yeah, they do.
But our study shows and took that into account that still there's significant demand in the community.
Okay. I mean, the biggest concern that I have, and again, I've lived here a long time and have been in that area, lived close to that area for even longer time, I guess, is I think it sells the neighbors, the folks that live there short, that there is potential opportunity there. I mean, I think we're seeing more residential developments in the area. One on Mound, the one I mentioned proposed, and I know there are others that are looking. I think the Amazon, just in the amount of traffic that's going to create, is going to create more of a demand. And it is in the geographic center of the township. I think the 25 in Shelby Road example is probably not the most direct one. Yeah, that's been silent dark for a number of years, but it doesn't nearly get the traffic that you get at that corner. I guess from my perspective, I still am not convinced that there isn't another use out there. Maybe it isn't a traditional retail, maybe it's entertainment, maybe it's some other kind of redevelopment that would warrant me to go to a use that, frankly, for that area, I mean, this may be the Taj Mahal of self-storage facilities. It may be, it's beautiful, and it looks like a very nice, but not for that location. And it's why we have zoning. And it's why there are appropriate places to put things. And on a hard corner of sort of Main and Main in Shelby Township, granted that there are developments elsewhere, but, this is a large community, and it's still continuing a growing community, that there are still opportunities, and I just don't know that I'm comfortable yet sort of selling that area short yet. And I'll turn it to my colleagues for their comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
I'm a little bit befuddled by this proposal because we had a meeting, as I recall, a year ago, a discussion. The Planning Commission had a study session on this, and we had a pretty, I think, clear understanding from that meeting that this was not a use we would welcome or we thought would be a wise addition to this section of our township. And yet here tonight we have the proposal 1 year later. It's almost identical, if not the same, as it was a year ago. It was a bad idea in my mind a year ago, and it's a bad idea today. It's even worse today because it's the same proposal we didn't like a year ago. It's obvious that somebody either didn't get the memo, didn't read the memo, or didn't like it, so they disregarded the memo because you said it and I'll repeat it. This is not something that I would envision for this part of our township. It is the heart of our township, the center of our township. And when this came up a year ago, I was approached by a resident who heard about it, and she said to me, "You're going to put that at 23 in Van Dyke?" And I said, "Well, we're not putting anything there. We had a discussion about it, but we did talk about it." She said, "That doesn't belong there." And, you know, there may not be any residents there now, but the residents who live near the area, anybody who drives near the area, will see it. And, you know, this area, in my opinion, is prime for redevelopment, not a reuse or a re-tenanting of an old Kmart facility. I know there's one in Waterford. I don't know if you have any dealing with that one. I drove by that building, and that does not look, it looks like a Kmart, an old 1970s Kmart with a new sign on it. We need a 21st century plan, not a putting paint on a 1970s Kmart building. I understand what you're trying to do. I think it's great that you want to reuse the building. Great that you want to reinvest in the community. My concern is the area, the location, and what that will say to other developers and to the residents that we are so enamored by a self-storage facility. We want it right there, smack dab at 23 in Van Dyke, the center of our township. I don't know how I, as a planning commissioner, can look anybody, you live here, I'll look residents in the eye and say, you know what? This is the best we can do for 23 in Van Dyke. This is the best. It's like accepting the first marriage proposal when you're not sure, and you don't know what's down the road yet waiting for you. I agree we don't know what's to come, but I just don't believe that we're going in the right direction with this one. Sorry.
You know, and this isn't just, I mean, we do have some autonomy on this board to evaluate individual things that come before us, but there's a master plan process, you know, that there are public hearings and that we have visioning exercises. And so we do take in the consideration and comments of the public when we determine and sort of modify the master plan. And this isn't a use that the master plan envisioned for this location.
May I respond to that? Or?
Sure.
I respectfully disagree, because what the master plan says is it can consider alternate uses. Now, there is a suggestion about some sort of residential development there, but if you actually look at the schematics, there's a problem. And the fact of the matter is, Big Lots remains. They're going to be there for 10 years with an option of 15 more. This actually vitalizes and stabilizes this area. And you also, the other alternative schematic envisions that the outlots are gone. Those are going to be there for a very long period of time. And so I understand what you're talking about, a potential residential use, but with the way development is, with the existing outlots that will remain there, I'm not sure that that's going to, something that's sustainable. And what we're trying to explain to you is, I understand that self-storage may not seem something that's sexy, so to speak, but it is the present and the future. And if you actually see in Oakland County on major thoroughfares, you'll see that there's self-storage facilities. There's one on Rochester Road, an 18-mile. On M59 behind the Black Rocks, it's there. That is what is going on. It's the present and the future based on the way that our economy is driving. We can debate it, Mr. Turner, where the epicenter is of Shelby Township. I think it's been progressive. We're doing a huge downtown development area right on 24 in Van Dyke. And when you have major shopping centers now on 26 Mile, a lot has changed. And yeah, it used to be the epicenter, but a lot has changed in Shelby Township progressively. And so people are shopping now on 26 Mile. They're not shopping at 23. There are some small mom and pop shops. I'll give that to you. But so you're really looking at, one, should it be retail? But 23 Mile is heavy and light industrial as you go from Van Dyke and you go automatically west. Are there going to be more people moving to Shelby Township because of Amazon? They're going to be low-paying jobs. Where are those people going to be living? Maybe apartments. Maybe that's what you want to get. But if they're living here, they're going to need storage because they're not going to be buying the big 600,000 square foot houses. So those are going to be lower wage workers if they come here, if they even move to Shelby Township. So it's an interesting idea. We think it works. We think it works with the surrounding area. We understand your criticisms.
Interesting to your point, though, is that those neighborhoods sort of surrounding that aren't $600,000 houses for the most part.
Right.
They're more reasonable. It's kind of how Shelby was initially built. So,
Right. Right.
Mr. Chairman, if I could make one more point.
yes, Mr. Turner.
I didn't say it was the epicenter of the township. It is the center of the community. And what was interesting is you said you went to outsiders and validated the viability of the plan, which they agreed with. And you came to us a year ago to validate the viability of the plan, and we didn't think it was a great idea.
I understand, Mr.
Not you,
Turner.
not you necessarily, but the applicant.
Respectfully, Mr. Turner, this is a public hearing, and
I
I know that
understand
you
that.
had a study, and I understand there were opinions given, but opinions change and you get more information, and this is our time to make a decision, and you may reject it, you may accept it, but we have a right to bring it before the public to see, to get a decision.
I agree, you're right.
And whatever your decision will be, we're gonna move on to the Board of Trustees, and they may make the same decision, they may agree with you, they may not.
Okay, point taken. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I say
Commissioner Moore.
something?
Yep.
I want to piggyback with Mr. Turner's comments as well. I don't believe that this is the highest and best use of this property. I think this can be developed as it's currently zoned and as our master plan is stated. Also with the, I know you had mentioned with the other storage facilities in the area, there are quite a few vacancies. In fact, the one that you're proposing just west of that, they're offering just incredible opportunities for storage because they can't fill their customer base. So I just don't see the demand, and I don't believe that this is the right project for this area. It might fit, obviously, somewhere else, but I don't believe that this is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This is the only public hearing the Planning Commission will hold on this rezoning request. Your remarks will be entered into the record for Township Board evaluation. The Planning Commission is a recommending body. The Township Board will take into consideration these comments when making the final decision on the rezoning. At this time, anyone from the audience is welcome to ask any questions or offer their opinions. Okay, ma'am? Yeah, not need to come up? And then you name and address? And then sign in when you're done. And then you can tell all your neighbors to watch on television, so.
I'm Susan Ream. I live on 24 Mile Road. I have a question. If you, the Planning Commission, rejects this idea, and then it goes to the Board of Trustees, they can override you?
Yeah, what we do, we make a recommendation, and then they act on our recommendation. So they can accept it or reject it. They can send it back to us and say, hey, you need to think about these other things, making a decision.
Is that open to the public as
Yeah,
well? Do they
sure.
take our input
Yep, every other
as well?
Tuesday. Yep.
Was my
And it'll be on the
question.
agenda, and if you sign in, I'll make sure Mr. Wynn lets you know
Thank
when
you.
it's before the,
That was my question.
he's a
Thank
very
you.
accommodating fellow.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Going twice, 3 times? Okay, back to the board. Mr. Wynn, your thoughts on this?
Chairman, I have a few comments to offer as well. The first is that, this is that time where when you're trying to do economic development and planning, wearing 2 hats they don't fit, and it doesn't work. So I understand the applicant's arguments and their proposal, certainly not without merit based on market conditions. However, I have to take the economic development hat off and just wear my planner hat. And, to me, the proposal is just not aligned with the master plan. And it's not just the illustrations in the plan. Those are just 2 different ideas. Wasn't meant to be exhaustive. But I don't think the plan goes far enough in transforming the site. You may recall we had a team of consultants, including an economic development consultant, national one, and I called him and asked him about this, and he said, under no circumstances should you recommend approval of that, Glenn. And I did ask one of our consultants to review my staff report, and he added some things to it. So, you know, you have three of us that are kind of weighing in on this, not supporting it. One of the concerns is there's really no job creation to this proposal. It's not a use that functions as an anchor that would draw other uses to the site. And I understand they've made some changes to the building, which are better than the look now. But frankly, the building facade improvements and the landscaping, there's really no imagination shown there in terms of transforming the site visually. So it doesn't go far enough functionally or visually to do that. Just in my view, the simple way to put this just doesn't move the needle in terms of making sense to me. So as much as I acknowledge, you know, the validity of the applicant's arguments, and I can't support this.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any concluding remarks? No? Okay. Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, our recommendation this evening must be based on the following: the practicality of this rezoning request and the effect on the surrounding area, the owner's right to use his land, do current growth and development patterns warrant this rezoning, and is the proposed rezoning in accordance with the master plan. We may recommend approval, we may recommend disapprove, or we can table it to evaluate the information further. If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
I make a motion to recommend denial to the Township Board of Rezoning Petition Number 8-18 for Jeffrey Miller, RCG Venture Holdings LLC, for parcel number 23-07-16-476-021, to be conditionally rezoned from C3 Shopping Center Business to C4 General Business, as the change is not consistent with the Township Master Plan. The proposed improvements and use offered as conditions provide little benefit to the township, and the applicant has not proven that the alternate development possibilities are not feasible under the current zoning or a planned unit development request.
Support.
Okay, moved by Turner, support by Pone. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Pone?
Yes.
Commissioner Dalu?
Yes.
Commissioner DeSico?
Yes.
Commissioner Casali?
Yes.
Commissioner Boutros?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Onward and upward. Next item is another public hearing for site plan number 18-22, special land use number 11, Ryan Stonier, Ryan Shelby LLC, / Titan Trucking. I'll ask the secretary to read the notice as published.
Charter Township of Shelby, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission for the Charter Township of Shelby, Macomb County, Michigan, has received a request for approval of the following special land use. Applicant, Ryan Stonier. Titan Trucking, 47861 Ryan Road, Shelby Township, Michigan, 48317. Proposed use, industrial building with outdoor storage, truck parking. Location, 47861 Ryan Road, west side of Ryan Road, north of Auburn. Site plan number 18-22 SLU-11. Sidwell number 23-07-30-426-006. Legal description is as follows. The Planning Commission will meet on Monday, October 22nd, 2018 at 7 p.m. in the Shelby Municipal Building, 52700 Van Dyke, Shelby Township, Michigan, 586-726-7243, for the purpose of holding a public hearing on the special land use application. The application for special land use and the site plan may be examined at the Planning and Zoning Department in the Municipal Building Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Written comments may be submitted to the Planning Commission at the above address prior to the hearing. Oral comments will be heard during the public hearing. This notice is provided pursuant to the requirements of Michigan Public Act 110 of 2006 as amended. Shelby Township Planning Commission, Jerome Moffitt, Chair, Raquel Moore, Secretary. This was published in the Shelby Utica News on October 3rd, 2018. There were 33 property owners and 2 applicants were notified by first-class mail on September 28th, 2018.
Thank you. Ms. Denowith, did the publication meet all legal requirements?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and then could you explain the uses under the present zoning and if this special land use request is appropriate.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and first I would like to bring to the
Oh, yeah.
Planning Commission's attention, it was brought to my attention that I understand our office has at some point represented Titan, the petitioner, on some small minor matters. We do not believe that there is any conflict here. There doesn't appear to be a significant legal question. But however, in the event that there is a legal question that is out of the ordinary, should the Planning Commission choose, we could refer that question to outside legal counsel.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions regarding this?
No.
Okay.
As far as the basic request here, this is a request for special land use. This particular property is zoned LM. This is an appropriate request pursuant to section 6.5, section 4.53, and section 3.19B 17 of the Shelby Township zoning ordinances.
Okay, thank you. Did we receive any correspondence on this request?
Yes, we did, Mr. Chair. We received one by a gentleman by the name of Dennis Perry. He's against this site plan. And also, we received correspondence from Ray Brenderlin, and he basically has concerns about this, about the drainage on the site and the retention pond.
Okay, thank you. Format for this public hearing will be very similar to what we just experienced. The petitioner will come up, say what he's requesting, review, then turn it to the commission, we'll ask questions, offer comments, then bring the board up, the audience, give the opportunity, ask any questions, state their opinions. Then we'll get some answers, and then we'll make a decision, a recommendation. So, the petitioner's here. We get your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Dan Lava. My address is 14007 East 10 Mile, Warren, Michigan. What we want to build here is a truck maintenance facility for Titan Trucking. It is a metal wall building, a prefab building. We've worked with the planning department as far as making it aesthetically pleasing, some brick facades, some landscaping in the front, a berm that faces the street. So from Ryan Road, you'll see landscaping and, some trees. You won't be looking at a commercial building per se. There are still some issues that are unresolved or have been addressed and not fully clarified that we discussed before the meeting. One of them being access to a fire hydrant. The detail of landscaping needs to be greater than it is on our drawing right now. My greatest concern tonight is we need at some point to be able to start excavation. So this is going to be an issue that's going to be next year instead of this year. So we're trying to do what we can.
We need to know what we're approving.
I
So-
100% agree, sir. That's why I'm here tonight.
Okay. So how about like a little more about the usage of the facility? I mean, what's gonna go on inside, what are you storing outdoors?
Outside is going to be double tandem dirt gravel haulers. Inside is going to be the maintenance of those trucks.
Okay,
Mr. Can I jump in for a
Sure.
second? So, show me on your site plan where it shows the storage, because you just described it, but you've not shown
tell you
anything.
what, if you're gonna talk over there, you need to have this microphone.
The site plan doesn't show it.
I blame Mr. Schneider, he broke the microphone. Put it on his tab. Yeah, okay, we'll tell you what, you're gonna have to point, or, yeah.
Okay, this area right here now that is 1x4 gravel, that is going to be the storage area for the actual double tandem trailers. The building will have the tractors, the maintenance of the tractors.
But, excuse me, if I may jump in, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
sure.
It doesn't show that. Can I just jump in for another second?
Yes,
I don't
Mr.
want
Wayne.
you to preempt the normal process here, but the problem we've had is we've given lists of the issues multiple times, and they come back never fully addressed.
We were discussing previous to the meeting, and,
We
Mitch,
gave you,
our
wait, now,
architect.
time out. We gave you an opportunity last week where we gave them all the comments a whole week ahead of time. I mean, if we didn't have a public hearing scheduled and, hadn't sent out notices, I would have pulled this from the agenda. So Scott and I are a little bit concerned with process here and frankly sloppiness of the responses. I don't know how to say it any kinder than that, but it is. It's sloppy.
Yeah.
I will address that with our architect. With my discussion with him all week were just that. Have you addressed the issues that were already brought to your attention? Mitch assured me they were addressed, and when I got here tonight, I found out some of them have not been addressed.
I'm not suggesting that your design professional was sloppy, but there's some miscommunication here, and it's not on our end.
I don't disagree with that, sir. I sat in a meeting with you, and I thought we had spelled out all
You're
the
not
things we
close to
needed.
having it done right.
Well, what is it that you?
Well, let me,
Yeah,
Scott,
Mr.
Mr. Aliff has a kind of a summary of this, and why don't you walk him through it, Scott?
First off, the concept for what you had asked for, we're not unsupportive of it. It's a good use for the spot. It's something that works. We've approved similar sites nearby. The problem is it's been horribly lacking in details. One of the things you had asked for was a special land use on the site. You never really fully described what it was, where it was going, how it was going to be arranged, how it was going to be managed. We had discussions with the engineer about how was this back area going to be dealt with. And it was basically, well, we're going to leave it as is. Well, when you have a site plan improvement, we need to see what you're actually improving. The building, it's all right. It could use some architectural detail to it. Right now we're seeing a big blank brick wall with a couple windows cut out of it. So one of the comments that I gave him is give us some architectural detail. Let's see how much we can dress this up so it's a little more scaled to the human form, so it's not such an imposing structure. We need to see what kind of road you're dealing with. There's been some historical problems on this site with dust, noise, traffic. We really need to see how you're going to manage all of these issues. And that was one of the problems we had, is there was no detail. And every time we asked, we got part of it or a little bit or just glossed over.
That's where we're coming from. We don't have an objection to this use. We think this use makes sense here with the proper conditions. We want to protect the residents there. That we know this is a site that has some limitations. I think it could work. We want to be supportive of it. Just this process that's constant. We're retreading the same ground. It's not productive for us at all.
Some of the concerns that you just voiced, I mean, we had a physical meeting and we provided receipts for companies that are coming in to lay down chemicals to keep the dust down, and that's been on a consistent basis, on a monthly basis.
Mr. Chairman, can I go? It's beyond that. We're looking for a surface that doesn't require that kind of maintenance. We're looking for you. We asked you to pave the entrance road from Ryan, and it'll be paved all the way to the entrance to the parking lot for the truck maintenance building. That's fine. It's beyond that, where Scott's been out there, I've been out there. The surface beyond that will have to meet a specification our engineer would find suitable. That's a durable surface, a dust-free surface. When you said you're treating it, that means you don't meet the specification. I mean, that's not a surface we want to see there. Now, we're not suggesting all your storage areas should be paved. That would be over the top and probably not appropriate. But what you have out there now is, if that's what you're proposing, then I'm going to withdraw my support for this right now.
Okay. We're not here negotiating with you, okay?
I
And
don't
it seems
disagree.
that
I'm
there's
not
a
trying to
lot of,
negotiate, sir. Okay.
this stuff all should have been worked out before, and we know the quality of the staff that work with this township and their willingness to work with every petitioner to sort of get it right. There is a sensitivity that because a lot of things had occurred off along Ryan Road that shouldn't have, and I think there's been a lot of effort by our planning staff to get it right and get it better. And it looks much better than it ever used to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the public to come up and offer whatever comments and questions that they have, and then I'm going to recommend to the board that we table this until you can get with the planning staff and get a submission that's more acceptable. So
I can appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, this is the only public hearing the Planning Commission will hold on this special land use request. All remarks will be entered into the record for Township Board evaluation. We are a recommending body, and the Township Board will evaluate our recommendation, which is the legislative body. The Township Board will make the final decision on this special land use request. This time, anyone is sort of coming up, name and address, and then when you're done, sign in.
Jesse Goodman, 47811 Greenview. We're in the sub. We're one of the residents that received the letter notification of this building. Obviously, we have a lot of concern living right there. I don't know how often all of you drive down Ryan Road, but it's a mess. There's sometimes where you wait a long time just to get in or out of our subdivision currently. And now we're talking about, double gravel haulers coming down there. Obviously, we have a lot of concern without the committee addressing the concerns of the road, maybe building it out, something to support something of that nature without the increase in traffic. There's a window of probably, I'd say, 4 to 8 o'clock when you pretty much can't turn out on Ryan Road. It's that bad. A lot of times, if you look at the planning, the top 10 priorities, we kind of feel like the, redheaded stepchild out there that you guys have forgotten about. I was really happy to hear that you have made recent efforts to beautify and work on that area.
Well, I think if you look at the berms that are going, you look at the buildings that are coming, and again, that's to Mr. Nguyen and staff on.
It is an improvement, yes.
In standard, but it is kind of what it is. It's what that township has always had those.
It is.
And you have to have those, and it's been zoned to have those sort of those services, so.
And there is a lot of, with the gravel pits there's a lot of trucking and everything already in that area. We've seen a drastic increase in the past couple of years. Like I said, to the point that it's almost become unnavigable to get in and out of our subdivision on Ryan Road. We've got to find creative ways to go around it now.
I drive Ryan daily, so I understand it. I'm through there about 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, so I get.
As much as we want to support future development it doesn't seem to make sense without building the roads or structure to support it. And that's really the concern we want to bring to you, if you haven't considered, to consider.
Thank you.
Where do we fit in? You've alluded to the master plan several times today, but there's been no mention of anything on that side. And that's what I would be curious to know is in the maybe not public knowledge master plan for Shelby Township, where does our little slice in the other side of River
again,
Bends?
Mr. Nguyen, yeah.
That's a good question. We recognize that on the west side of Ryan, it's been zoned at manufacturing.
Okay.
You're not going to attract in that area because of the physical conditions of the land. You're not going to get the large-scale manufacturing. It's more for service-related uses. So you might have some storage, but what our goal is to get some buildings out front, clean the sites up so they present a nicer face to the road and manage the potential nuisances. And here's a perfect example. We call that former, I think there was a landscape company years ago on a large site to the south of this. We rezoned it and it was converted to auto recycling. You may recall how that site looked. It looked really nice. They cleaned it up. All the vehicles were stored nicely. They cleaned up the front and you couldn't see what was back there. So mission accomplished. So that's what we're trying to do, make sure we get the right uses with the right transition so it manages those nuisances and minimize them for the neighbors. And I think with the right improvements, this could work here. But we're sensitive to those. But, it's going to be industrial there. It's going to be the type of industrial that we don't want to have an impact on the neighbors.
And I guess that's what I want to reemphasize again. Without changing the road there, I don't see how that's possible.
Can I offer one more comment? And that kind of gets to why we need some level of detail. Some of these operations, they're not like their trucks coming in daily or in and out all the time. And I think if the applicant was able to share some of that information, what are the characteristics of his business, how much vehicle traffic are we seeing here, that might help support even what they're asking for. But without that, it's hard to know what the use is. It's like this unknown out there that they're asking for. We can't hit a target we can't see.
And I agree, we don't know yet from our perspective either, but that is our primary concern is this, are we looking at a 10% increase in what's already a lot of large trucks driving down Ryan Road, a road that is questionably able to support that as it is.
Right.
So that's really our concern.
Thank you, Mr.
Has there been a consideration for maybe, is the possibility to have an entrance off of the Hamlin Road side where there necessarily isn't residential property right there? Is that something that could be considered instead of having the entrance directly next to the only entrances to our subdivision off of Ryan Road? Because this is basically almost directly across Durham Road, right by the fire station, and very similar to that lot, which we're concerned because, as I said, we already have trouble turning into our sub or getting out of our sub.
I don't know that this property has an egress out to Hamlin, but
yes,
it's worth looking at.
I have no other comments.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, sir.
Jim Cable, 47169 Frederick Road. I have to agree with this gentleman. He summed it up very well. I'd like to kind of say something that Mr. Turner brought up, which kind of rolled my eyes. People got to drive by it. People got to look at it. People got to live there. Obviously, that storage facility was unacceptable for you at 23 in Van Dyke. This is unacceptable to us in our neighborhood. Unfortunately, there's probably 2, 3, 4 of those type of buildings or operations there already. I don't think Ryan Road, actually I know Ryan Road can't support it. And you're talking about double gravel haulers. I don't know how they're gonna get in and out of there, especially with the way the traffic is now. It's unbearable. The dust is just unbelievable. The mud is unbelievable. The traffic is unbelievable. If this was to be approved at any point in time, I believe that you guys got to get some type of ordinance in place that this road gets cleaned up, and I'm talking about Ryan, whether it's all these companies getting together and getting the road cleaned up on a regular basis. If you go by there, even Auburn Road, a brand new road 5, 6 years ago, there's probably a foot of gravel in the gutters of Auburn Road, if not more, all the way down Auburn Road. The road's already crumbling, and that's a paved road. What's Auburn Road going to end up like? The bridge that is there, the Clinton River, one of these trucks is going to fall through there one of these days. There's already been a fatality accident involving, I believe, a double gravel hauler on that bridge here this past summer or spring. I think we need to look at this a little bit further. You keep saying there's nothing else you can build there. It's zoned light manufacturing. Some point in time, you thought there was going to be some manufacturing there, and all we're getting is gravel haulers in storage facilities. The sound daily. I'm 2 blocks over. This gentleman's a block over. Imagine the people right on Ryan hearing those backup alarms all day long. The hours of operation that you guys got set for them, they're not following. It's unbelievable, even at night. I wake up before the alarms go off. My alarm goes off, and I get up at 6, and I'm hearing the beeps and the scraping and the banging. I just think you guys better look at this a little bit further. This gentleman's description of the building that's aesthetically pleasing, that's unbelievable. If that was the building that he showed is what we got to look at off of Ryan Road, we better think again. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wish to comment? Yeah.
My name is Danielle Godoba. I live at 47791 Greenview. I am directly, my neighbors are on Ryan Road. My backyard backs up to Ryan Road. And I just, how many trucks are you going to have at a time? No one has said that.
I'll bring them up after to answer.
Okay, so that doesn't make, okay. And then the other thing is the trucks that are there now, like he was saying, they start them at 6 in the morning and they run and run all day. Our windows shake, our houses rattle. I just think it's unfair. I understand you guys drive down Ryan and you see the traffic, but I don't think that you like sit there, park yourselves there at 6, go sit at the fire station at 6 in the morning and hear what our house is like. I mean, it really is unfair because it does. It's very loud, it shakes, it's a lot of noise, it's a lot of traffic, it's a lot of dust. I mean, our houses are dirty because it's dusty if we leave our windows open. It's just, I just wanted to make my point known.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And if you caught that one of Mr. Wynn's biggest concerns is to mitigate that nuisances, and it's to make sure that there isn't that dust and that those things don't impact the neighbors. So, anyone else? Going twice, 3 times? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Question on the number of trucks. Do you have any?
There's presently a dozen trucks, but they don't all come out and go first thing in the morning. It's something that's as needed. Another issue, Mr. Nguyen had already recommended to us that we had to widen Ryan Road in that area. We're already in discussions in regards to that, understanding that the traffic that is pulling out is not fast-moving traffic. So that's something we've been working towards already to remedy that. And the noise, the 5-foot berm and the trees in the front are gonna, and the building are gonna minimize the noises. Right now, it's a field that the trucks are driving crossing, coming out on the street. So we're trying to make that go away by building this building.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Aliff, did you have anything else you wanted?
Not really, no.
Thank you. All right, well said. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Our recommendation this evening must be based on the following: compatibility with adjacent land uses, consistent with and promote the intent and purpose of the special land use, compatibility with the natural environment, consistent with the capacities of public services and facilities affected by the proposed use, protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and the adequacy of public access to the site. We may recommend approval, we may disapprove the request, or we can table it to evaluate it further. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner?
I move to recommend postponement for site plan application number 1822 SLU 11 for Ryan Stonier, Titan Trucking, to give the applicant a chance to resubmit a revised site plan that fully addresses all the concerns of our township planner and departments.
Support.
Okay, moved by Turner, support by Moore. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapone?
Yes.
Commissioner Dalu?
Yes.
Commissioner DeSico?
Yes.
Commissioner Casale?
Yes.
Commissioner Boutros?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. Okay. Next item, site plan number 18-44, John Gerhardt, Spring Design Manufacturing. So, Mr. Snyder, how many times do you get to charge mileage on this? Your per diem probably paid my
That's
college, my
privileged
kid's college
information,
bill.
Chairman Moffett. As many as I can. I'll put the new mic on one of my clients' tabs.
As many as I can.
I know. Pete Snyder, Urban Land Consultants, 8800 23 Mile Road, Shelby Township, Michigan, representing the applicant, John Gayhart, Spring Design. This is a project, Mr. Gayhart, Spring Design is actually the original occupant of that building after Mr. Rizzo built it. It's on 2 lots in Rizzo Industrial Subdivision on the back of Industrial Center Drive. And he I'm going to go with about 6 years ago, came to us because he was busting at the seams with his company, and we did the first edition. And now he has come back with a second edition on that lot. Again, it's zoned LM. It's, let's see, I'm going to try this just to see how it works, okay? So the pink is the existing building, right there. That was what.
You break the microphone and now you bring out your handy dandy.
I wasn't going to touch that microphone again, just in case. So that was the original building that Mr. Gayhart purchased. This is the addition that was done a few years ago. There was plans with that addition to do dressed up entryway that never really transpired, but the shop area was constructed. This current building addition involves more shop area over here and the new entry and office area. Mr. Terry Measle, the architect, is here with me. He did the architecture for, I believe, the addition and this proposal as well. It's fairly nice, industrial. It's at the end of the cul-de-sac. Nobody's going to see it much anyway, except his customers, and it's actually a fairly nice facility visually. We've got some proposed parking lot in the back here. We've got a truck well on the west side that faces front. We'll talk about that in just a second, and some more proposed parking, customer parking there in the front. Adequate parking for the use. One issue that the planner brought up is that is front-facing truck well unloading. That's technically not required. Again, it's at the end of the cul-de-sac. Nobody's going to see it. It's really sort of on the side of the building. If we need to go get a variance, we'll go get a variance. I think it's a reasonable variance request. So with that, it's a nice, easy one. I'm certainly available if you have any questions for me, so.
Okay. To the board, any questions?
Just have one question. So the circulation of the truck, it comes from the back of the building and exiting to the front?
No. The trucks, as they may come, will turn around here, and they'll end up backing in, right there. There isn't sufficient room for, really, for a truck to come through. This section over here, this is a Longstaff drain. I think it's 165 feet wide. So that line right there I've highlighted is the edge of the Longstaff drain easement.
And then the width of the drive, is it 12 feet wide?
Yeah, well, the drive coming
Next to
in
the
off the
building.
cul-de-sac is 30, is the standard 30, but then this right here is 17, but then the truck well itself is 12 feet wide. That's a fairly standard width for the truck wells. So,
I don't know. I don't know if we need like a ballard, like right at the corner, so they won't hit the corner of the building if they miss it. Like some sort of a bollard, like,
we had considered putting bollards there. I'm good with bollards in cars. I'm not sure a bollard in a semi is gonna really do the job. If they
well,
miss,
if they feel it, I
if they
guess I
take
don't
out the
know.
bollard, they're gonna take out the building
It's just
too.
too
right?
tight next to the
So,
building.
Yeah, they got a bigger set of issues, yeah.
Yeah. So,
You can't make it any wider?
the truck well itself, again, that's a standard width for a truck well. And it's not, the other thing to think about that is they're backing it in, it's not a blind side back in, meaning he's looking out driver's side window to see the building, which is the safer side to back in. I think it'll work. The applicant's satisfied that it will. Maybe he's got better truck drivers than you and I think he might, so.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Nguyen, your thoughts?
This is, again, another very good submission. Other than that one issue Pete mentioned, this is ready for an approval, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Is there a motion?
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
Lay it on me, Mr. Dallo.
I move to approve site plan number 18-44, John Gerhard, subject to submitting a revised plan addressing all department comments.
Support.
Who was the supporter? Okay. Support, a motion by Dallo, support by DeSico. Any questions on the motion? I can read my scribble. Hearing none. Commissioner Dallo.
Yes.
Commissioner DeSico.
Yes.
Commissioner Casali.
Yes.
Commissioner Boutros.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner Pone.
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Thank
Good
you very
luck.
much.
Anybody else you can charge, or are you done?
That's enough, isn't it?
2 out of 3.
Mr. Nguyen.
Nothing else, Mr. Chairman. Oh, could you save the site plans for the McDonald's, because I can stamp and approve them tomorrow? You're ready, you're done.
All right, and with that, Mr. Dallo, one more.
Motion to adjourn, Mr.
Your support? Moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.